And it breaks their hearts that they weren't able to find the right partner in time before their fertility window closed. And Professor Kaiser talks about the pain that these women feel. And Stephen Shaw's been to these support groups, that women who thought that they had more time, that struggled to find a partner in time, they grieve for families that they never had. And that sentence just, it makes me feel so upset. Like, it's so painful to hear the prospect of a woman that wanted to have a family and couldn't. It's very difficult.
So there's two solutions there that you've kind of offered up as potential solutions to that. Does that alone fix the other side of the coin, which is the huge quantity of men that are avoiding relationships, intimacy, women altogether?
Not particularly. Raising men up somehow would be great. But I mean, where we begin with that, I don't know. I think men are heavily checked out of education and employment. Men have been retreating from the US labor force market by 0.1% per year since 1950. 87% in 1950, it's about 67% now. By 2050 or 2040 or 2050, it'll be 65%. Given that women want, on average, about 80% of women want a man with a stable job, this retreat is not good. Each step that men take where they take themselves out of education and employment not only isolates them and makes them economically less viable as contributors to society, it also makes them less eligible as mates. On average, men between 18 and 30 in the US spend 2,000 hours per year playing video games, stoned, or on prescription drugs. That's not the eligible partner, right? So one other thing that you could look at doing is encouraging in-person dating. So online dating does worsen this issue because it allows you to optimize for objective metrics of success, right? On a dating app, and this is for both men and women. On a dating app, particularly for men, you can have your education level, you can have the car that you're with, you can talk about your job, so women are very much encouraged by the platform itself to take a incredibly low resolution view of this person. So all of the things that guys are able to work on, like, vibe and humor, being pleasant, being kind, being caring, being charming, none of that can come across on a Tinder profile. And this means that it further worsens the tall girl problem. You see how it would make the objective metrics even more and more worsened. Let's not forget that there are 3 men for every 1 woman on a dating app. So even if every man matched off with a woman, there would still be this huge number of men that didn't have a partner, right? So online dating hasn't delivered on the promises I think that anybody wanted for it. Women swipe right on around about 4.5% of profiles for men. Men swipe right on about 60% of profiles for women. This means that a lot of men see online dating as a waste of time. We spoke about how it buffers rejection and that it helps people to not feel rejection so much. But when you spend a lot of time on apps swiping right on 60% of people on average, and you don't get very many matches or any matches, or the few matches you do get never turn into dates, that would quite rightly make people feel disenchanted with the world of dating. Downstream from the problems of social media that we spoke about before are a lack of ability to flirt. I actually think that flirting is a lost art at the moment. It's a very complex thing to do. It's a push and pull. You have to understand a lot of intricacies about sort of social dynamics and interaction. You need to be able to tease, but not too much. And the art of flirting is incredibly difficult to get right. And it's even more difficult if you've never interacted with a woman in the real world, especially as guys and girls. Now, let's touch another third rail, Stephen. Me Too. So Me Too was a necessary requirement to call powerful men to account for misbehaving and using their power to gain sexual access to women. What it sought to do was to sanitize the toxic elements of certain males' behavior. What it's ended up doing is it's sterilized almost all of it. 84% 80% of men report not approaching a woman because they are scared of being seen as creepy. 84% of women say that they want the man to make the first move. Women are terrified of being approached by men because of stories of sexual assault, of dangers within the workplace, of overreach by men that are both in power and out of power. Men are terrified of approaching women for fear of being accused of all of those things. So we have an epidemic of loneliness and sexlessness amongst the sexes. For the first time in our 4 million year history, we have large cohorts of both men and women who want relationships and can't get into them. Men feel invisible on dating apps and are terrified of approaching women in the real world. Women yearn for men who they want to be in a relationship with, but either are not spoken to by or are used and abused by. In person, both of them are terrified of talking to each other in any case for fear of either being accused of or becoming the victim of some sort of terrible interaction. I think that re-enabling in-person dating would make a massive difference. It would reduce down the tall girl problem because you would have the ability for guys to gain status in the eyes of, for instance, a guy that maybe doesn't have a university degree but is unbelievably funny is still very statusful, right? Because humor engenders a sense of status. It's called clown maxing in the black pill world. But that guy might not get a chance if he was just on online dating. So that would be another thing.